Howdy. I'm ready. How about you? Oh, microphone. Hold the phone. Get it? Microphone. Hold the phone. Okay. Happy Wednesday. Let me call my crew over. Here's my crew. Hopefully a little better. Hi, Doug. Hi, Peggy. Microphone. Makeup. Tech guy. Foley. Best boy. Okay. Let me go through all the jobs on a movie. How about that? So say hello. Otherwise, I can't see. Well, I can see if I'm not sure why. I think I can see Peggy is always ready. We can count on her. She was born ready. Right? Right? Okay. What are we doing? Who are we? Okay. Got it. I'm on it. Look, I put the handout in the link in the. Hi, Cindy. I put the handout in the post right out the gate. So you can go ahead and download it. For those of you that are screenwriters. So Doug and I have so much going on. Okay, so I can see there's people here, but I won't know. Hi, Elizabeth. Yes, you need to say hello. I won't know you're here. Well, I mean, I know you're here, but I don't know who you are. But you don't have to. You could stay lurking in the back too. That's fine. Totally fine. You can lurk. I invite you to lurk. Lurk Wednesday. Lundi. Okay, sorry. I'm learning French. Okay, anyway. Doug and I have a lot going on. So our heads are a little swimmy, as they say. So we've been a little bit like, so I feel a little bit like I just came out of a cave and then turned the camera on. It's interesting because we love creating this. We love creating these handouts. We love creating these courses. We love all of this. But it's hard sometimes to switch back and forth from literally today we're like back and forth on the phone, on the computer, like, or, I'm so buried in the computer, and then to come up and be on cameras. It's been a good lesson in just blessing. It's been a good lesson in letting go. Just let it go. Hi, Anson. You can lead off with 2 questions. Please do. We're covering Act 1 today. That's what we're going to talk about in general. The handout is a checklist of the things that have to do with Act 1, and I'll kind of briefly talk about them, and then I'm going to pick a couple to dive into. So I don't want to take too much of your time, but we'll dive into a couple. But it is daunting. So we have the Screen Readers course, which is where we're teaching. That's our signature main massive thing that we also do meetings every Wednesday for that. So everyone's learning how to be readers, diving in really deep into how to be a reader. We do these every week because we want to make sure that if you can't be in the course, you still have a way to kind of piece it together. So we're having a great time. We always try to come up with valuable things we can give to you. We have a Screenwriters Mastermind, which we have now dubbed Finished. Is that great or what? So it is a mastermind called Finished because we were helping people finish their screenplays. And now this week we launched the self-starter system, which I am personally really proud of because it's basically the things, this has been an online business that we started, that we had to learn how to do. So it's basically how we did that. It's a lot of mindset. It's basically geared for if you are someone who didn't have the finances or the resources to join the Hollywood Screen Readers program. There were a lot of people that contacted us and said they just either can't afford it or they don't have time. So we developed the self-starter system to kind of give you some major tools so that you can afford to do the things that you want to do, so that you can figure out how to make time to do the things that you want to do. Kind of systematic approach because we get it. And this has been a massive thing with just the 2 of us starting. So kind of like how to balance finances and time. And so you can do, whether it's our course or whatever, like it's not just meant for us, it's meant so that you can do whatever you want to do. So self-starter system, I'll put a link to that as well. So we got a lot going on. Oh, I need to scroll. You probably asked your questions. So can profanity make a script less desirable? No, I mean, it doesn't matter. You make me want to swear. I don't swear a lot unless something is really like, what? I had a really funny meeting yesterday and I was a little bit like, what the? Yeah. Anyway, you just need to make sure that you're getting that script to the right place. And we don't do a lot of posting about, profanity and that kind of thing in this particular group. It is rampant, obviously, in screenplays. It's like, you need to have an open mind to that because some screenplays, some characters, I believe, my personal opinion is that the weaker a character is, now I don't mean like they're written poorly. I mean like the character is weak and insecure, the more profane they are, if that makes sense, because they're trying to muster up whatever. And I kind of feel like that in real life. Some people are just, I mean, they say that smart people swear more. I don't know if that's actually true, but the people that you see, the people that you see on the street in bar brawls, and they're just so like screaming all these profanity, to me that's because they don't feel significant. They're trying to get that attention, they're trying to get that control, so that to me is kind of a basic of why people might, hi CC, why people might use profanity. But you want to make sure that you aren't submitting your big old F-bomb script to Hallmark. They're going to, so you just got to submit it to the right people. If and also I wouldn't be I mean, I have a lot of profanity in a lot of the screenplays I write, and so I don't look like I write, and so because I think it's funny sometimes, especially when it's someone you wouldn't expect it from. Really, I think it can be really funny. You can use it in a lot of different ways, as long as it's not just gratuitous, just to be, you're trying to be cool. It can be gratuitous if the character is using it in a gratuitous fashion. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Yeah. Thanks for sharing, Peggy, that you're contemplating giving your keyboard a good long alcohol bath. That sounds really nice. Someone seems to have spilled on the right-hand keys and they're sticky. So you're going so you're dropping L-bombs. So is it frowned upon to put title cards at the end of a script showing where your characters ended up? Oh, okay. If it's a true story, often that's sort of expected because you want to see where, what happened. And then sometimes like in Animal House, that's a good example where they're mocking that in a way, they're saying this person, I don't think it's frowned upon. Again, the same kind of thing, as long as it's not lazy writing, you know what I mean? As long as I love it when people mock it. Some people are very literal sometimes, and they don't get satire. But honestly, any of this is all okay as long as as long as it merits the script. You know what I mean? As long as it's reflecting something in the script that works. If the script's poorly written, or if you've left a bunch of stuff out and you're like, oh shoot, if you find yourself at the end going, they need to know this about that, and you slap it on a title card, that's frowned upon. That will jump out like a red flag. And our screenreaders know that I'm not a fan of voiceover for that same reason. I feel like often when I'm watching a movie, unless it's pretty obviously laid out, sometimes adaptations will have more voiceover, which makes sense because they're adapting a book, but often they get to the end of the edit and go, yeah, we weren't able to get that day of shooting, whatever, and they slap a voiceover at the top. I can spot that a bajillion miles away. And also when I'm reading a script and there's a lot of voiceover, it just feels in a lot of ways like it's just lazy writing. So same holds true with title cards, same holds true, with that kind of, with a way of getting exposition across in a way that's not just the characters doing what's happening. So exposition is basically, telling the information the audience needs to know in order to move the story forward. Now, and a great example of exposition are soap operas, because they're all exposition. That's why the dialogue is so stilted. But soap operas are modern day melodrama. So it's fine because melodrama is very stilted, has that kind of tone to it. So when you're writing exposition it's melodramatic and it's bad, it would be bad dialogue in other areas because they have to update the audience on what happened. So that's why they're always like, that's why, what did you think I meant when your sister came over the other day and she slept with Dawn and then Dawn came and had my brother's baby? I don't know, whatever. But you know what I mean? Like they're getting all this information out. So a title card is a way to get information out. One of the other ones that you see like all the time, which I think is used way too much, is the TV's on and the reporter's like, today, and blah, 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 blah. And they tell you, here, audience, this is what you need to know. And I'm always like, I'm terrible to watch anything with, because I'm always like, oh, really? Tell me more. Because it's just, that's a really common one. And then the whole newspaper clipping thing is just way too overdone. And who saves newspaper clippings of the things that are bad? Except in Crimes of the Heart, when they say, why are you saving things that are bad? And she says, oh, no, I just like to keep a good record, I guess. Love. So they comment on it. So hang on, let me see if don't drop a bomb at Disney. Yeah, Disney. Yeah, exactly. They can, yeah, and often a producer, well, and that's that's something to consider. So Doug's saying that, often producers will soften the language, or they'll say, there's rules in television, or not television, I'm sorry, there's rules about rating, what's an R-rated, what's a PG-13, about how many specific words that you can have that are bad. So sometimes they'll soften it up. Now, if you have a screenplay where you really feel passionately that you are not going to soften it up, that can end up being an issue. Yeah, you should push it a bit, turn a PG-13 into an R. Actually, I've been brought in to do rewrites just for that reason, to what they call punch it up. Sometimes to punch up a character and give them a voice. Or they were raised in the Bronx. So for a spec script, well, I'm sorry, Doug, I'm not sure what you mean. So never, for a spec script, never? You mean like don't put F-bombs in spec scripts? Is that what you mean? You prefer champagne? Okay, no, you guys are losing. Okay, well, if the typos get really, really bad tonight, everyone knows why. Sticky key, sure, that's a fine example. It's, okay, got you. It's, yeah, it won't make or break your deal, but you might get notes that, unless it's gratuitous. Yeah, if your character's in a gang, a bad gang, or they're bad boys. Great, I'm glad that helps. Yay, hooray. It's, never mind. It's easier. There's so many jokes and I'm like out the window. So I was about to say that it's kind of like last week when we were like, she said happy ending. That was in screen readers though. We try to keep it really clean in here. And the reason that we do that, there is a reason for that, because we can be as off color as anyone. Just read my work, is that I have found in general in Facebook groups, in a Facebook group, if you go down that path, there's people that take you down so far that it's like, wait. So we kind of do kindergarten rules here apply. We try to be very, very respectful because we don't want to offend people and we want to have people in here. This is true. Catholic school kids, they're the ones that you gotta watch out for in high school. They're the partiers. Okay, got it. I can see Peggy in my mind shaking her head. It's classic. So yeah, so we don't do that. We don't do that here in the Hollywood Gatekeepers because it can get out of hand really fast. And then everybody goes, this group is really negative, which is interesting, right? Often that's where it ends up going, is people, it just becomes a big, huge bitch fest as people complain about things in really raunchy ways. And so we don't want that taking over the group. So that's why we hone it in here pretty hardcore, because we want it to keep it that way. We're a little looser in screen readers. Not much, but a little bit. It is usually, we can count on Peggy. So, but we keep it pretty clean. But, screenplays are, if you don't like it, go watch something else. That's the beauty of it. It's kind of like, if you don't want to see a horror film, go to a Disney movie. So it is interesting to me when people get offended about movies because or television or whatever, because it's like, I got one word for you. Click. Okay, anywho, I hope that helps kind of clarify that. So yeah, so good. I'm glad it's helping answer, and I hope that makes sense. And again, pretty much anything is, it's a big old free-for-all, as long as it's good, as long as it's compelling, as long as it makes sense, as long as all that, we've become a pretty thin-skinned society in a lot of ways. Interestingly, we're on extremes, right? We're either super thin-skinned or super belligerent. There's like, both sides are really kind of out of hand right now. It's kind of interesting. And it was apparent in the Golden Globes, they actually joked about it. Like, you can't really even, you can make jokes, you can't really make jokes, but you can make rousing speeches that are very, very much one opinion, which is interesting to me. It's like, lighten up and have a lot of opinions. It's okay. We can all have different opinions. It's fine. So it makes life interesting. That's what I say, says Cindy. So today we are going to talk about Act 1, my lord. Oh, I haven't done that in a long time. We're going to talk about Act 1, my lord. Get it? The other thing that we don't do that we used to do, all the people that are kind of new are like, what is she talking about? Early on, we used to do playtime. Remember those days? Maybe we'll do it today if I remember. Someone remind me. Oh, Doug, did you share? Yes? Playtime is like, playtime at the end, so you could either leave or stay for playtime, and then we literally put on funny hats. Because I'm a firm believer in playtime. I think all businesses should have recess, and we should all come in from recess and put our head on our desk and have some graham crackers and milk. That's what I think. Google kind of does that, right? And people are happy there, I guess. That's what they say. So get your handout out. It's probably the easiest way to do this. And I put the link above in the post. Here's the story. So click on that and you can download it. And then, did y'all get your planner too? Did y'all get that? Just want to make sure, because 2019 has arrived. Time to finish your screenplay, time to become a reader, time to do whatever it is you're going to do, and the planner will help you do that. So look at that post. There's two, actually. The planner's in 2019, and then the planner is in Motivation to Manifestation, the last 2 weeks. Also, if I know that someone posted, they were talking about treatments, and they wanted to know about treatments, so if that was you, if you just go into the search bar within the Hollywood Gatekeepers Facebook group, if you're not in the group, you should be in the group, go into the search bar and type any word you want, and all the things that have to do with that will pop up. I believe we have done a Facebook Live specifically about treatments. So if you type in treatment in the search bar, any posts that were about treatments will pop up, about anything. I don't think we've done a Facebook Live about language, but we have about dialogue for sure. So you can type that in. We haven't done one specifically about title cards. I think we have about voiceover. So, just type in whatever topic you're looking for, and you might be able to find different Facebook Lives about that. Doug, as long as opinions match my own. Yes. If you want your opinion, I'll give it to you. Exactly. Right. Got it. Yay, Elizabeth. Elizabeth's like, let's get moving. I got the handout. Quit your yakking, you guys. Peggy's got 2 copies. She's got one for each hand because one's all sticky. So we're kind of going to go down. These are the things, some of the things. There's many more things that can go into Act 2. So as I said, we have finished, which is our mastermind for screenwriters. This is pulled right out of there, as you can. Oh no, mine says screenwriters on it. So this is stuff that we pulled straight from the courses that we teach. So basically, what we try to do is we try to pull things from things that we're doing in our courses, and then kind of give you pieces, and so you can kind of piece it together if you want to do it that way. So or sometimes we just come up with topics based on questions you've asked. So like treatments would be a good one. I could talk, actually for me, treatments is a really short subject, but anyway, but that's for another time. So basically what we did is in this handout, we put down, just a checklist of kind of the things that should be part of Act 1. And one of the things I don't believe is in there, it's not, is the importance of the first 10 pages. And I think we've done we did the last act. Although we've done the first, maybe we have, I can't remember, I'm sorry. We've been doing these for a while now. It's awesome, like a year, right? A little over a year. Yeah, like 18 months. The first 10 pages, how important they are. Really, really important. So let's put that on the docket of things that we want to talk about, because it really is really, really important. Those first 10 pages, a lot of people, we don't promote this. I don't believe in this, but a lot of people will only read those first 10. Maybe they call it a 10-30 or a 30-10 when you read the first 10 and the last 30, or first 30 and the last 10. Some readers will do that. I am a huge soapbox against that. I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's right. I think it's rude. I think if you're going to be a reader, that's your job. You need to read the entire screenplay, start to finish. Have some respect for that writer. They finished a screenplay. It's huge. Read it. So that's my little soapbox on that. I think we did. Yeah, I think you're right. I think we did. But those first 10 pages, they're contagious, 10 pages. Their first 10 pages are really important. And so if we didn't, we should. We'll do, should Google my own Facebook group. Because those, like I said, those are the things that you have to draw the reader, the person in with those first 10 pages. So yeah, that's super important. Some of the other, so in the first act, or in the first act, you're introducing your protagonist. Usually you introduce your antagonist. You're introducing your main characters in those first 10 pages, unless for some reason You don't want people to see your protagonist yet unless there's something that's leading up to their grand entrance. You start out with kind of just a couple, maybe even one or two main characters in those first few pages. If you introduce a slew of characters in those first 10 pages, unless they're groups of people, you can say the Roman army, that's one introduction, that's fine. But if you're it's the aunt and then the uncle and the brother comes in and then the neighbor and then the sister, it's just like, it's too much. So you want to kind of keep it really simple right in the beginning. But that first act is basically you're introducing what's going on. And then the first thing that happens, major thing that happens, is called the inciting incident. Screenplay formatting is 1 minute per page. So that's why a screenplay is 90 to 120 pages, just like a movie is an hour and a half to 2 hours roughly. So if your screenplay is only 60 pages, it's too short unless you're intending it to be a short film. If you're intending it to be a short film, that's too long. So, you need to know that it's a minute per page. It's always 12-point New Courier font. The margins are an inch at the top, inch at the bottom, inch on the right, inch and a half on the left, so that when it's printed out and they put brads in it, it has room, right? Do not cheat. Do not use smaller font. Do not use bigger or smaller margins. I can pick up a script. I don't have to open it, and I can tell you if someone cheated just by how much it weighs. That's if you're, I can scroll, same thing, like immediately go, oh, they're cheating. So, and that's a huge no-no. It's just, you're just an amateur right out the gate if you do that. If you think, well, I know it's too long, so I'm just gonna, if I know it's too long, I'm just gonna make my margins 75 instead of an inch, and then that will give me a couple lines. Don't do it. Just don't do it. Just learn to cut your writing. And the same goes the other way. I'll just make my margins a little bit bigger, and then the script will be a little bit longer. Just don't do it. So, yeah, you will do. I will do that. Not sure what you mean. Poor Cindy. I'm always doing that too. Like my brain moves too fast. Labyrinth has 72 pages, but Labyrinth, I believe, has very little dialogue. Am I mistaken? Also, there are some screenplays. You don't see this too much anymore, which could be something to bring back. His name is escaping me. Howard, huge movie maker, someone, Peggy, had the snappy dialogue that the Coen brothers mimicked in the It's for Kids. I'm just like, this is like a game show. Hudsucker Proxy was mimicking Howard. His last name is escaping me. He's an enormous filmmaker. But the characters speak so fast in those movies that those scripts were really long, but that's because the characters speaking at rapid pace. I think the scripts are like 250 pages or something, but the movie clocks in at 90 because they're just like, they talk so fast. Aaron Sorkin, bit of that. I think Aaron Sorkin, we were watching something the other day, and all of a sudden we're like, it was Molly's Game. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is clearly Aaron Sorkin. And it's interesting because some actors can do Aaron Sorkin really well where you don't really realize, and some it's super obvious. Thank you. No, not Hugh, before that. Hecker, I want to say. It's like one of the most prolific filmmakers of all time, but it's before our time, it's before my time. So that's why it's like escaping me right now. Katharine Hepburn did a lot of his movies. So that's whoever gets it. Gets their $10 Staples card. No Googling. You're Googling. I can feel it. I can hear your thumbs. So anyway, so don't skimp on the formatting. Don't do it. Just stick to the rules. And so if you're a minute, so then about 20 to 25, 30 page minutes in, that's when the inciting incident happens. That is the thing that changes everything. That's the left turn. That's in The Wizard of Oz. That's the tornado. She knocks her head and passes out, and then she wakes up. It's color-coded in The Wizard of Oz to help you. That's when she wakes up in Munchkinland. It's like, it's the thing that turns. And pretty much even movies that don't do a systematic three-act structure, the inciting incident still is something that makes the character go, whoa, makes our protagonist be like, what switches? When the earthquake happens, or the tsunami happens, or it's the moment. And so when you start watching movies now, pay attention, like 25 to 35, 20 in there, somewhere between 20 and 35 minutes in, something big will happen. And that's the thing that shifts everything. That is called the inciting incident. That is the end of Act 1. And then as soon as that thing happens, you are stepping into Act 2. So that's kind of the major things that happen in Act 1. Sorry. I'm looking at the wrong Hand out. It's like, wait a minute. No, I'm not. I got this. I know what's in my course. Really. I did mean Hudsucker Proxy. That they mimicked it in Hudsucker Proxy. You had it. That was right. It's for kids. Such a great movie. It's one of my faves. Interesting that Tim Robbins, right? He played so many characters, and now he just plays one jerk after another. What's up with him? I've met him a couple of times. It's like a big old kid. So sweet. But it's funny that he's going down that path. It's cool. He's great at it. Just love Bull Durham. He's so great at that. Anyway, so you want to be introducing your characters, and then your scenes. You want to make sure that all of your scenes are turning, meaning that something happens in every scene, or someone makes some kind of shift. Either the story makes a shift, well, usually a character will make a shift. The story makes a shift. Obviously, that's kind of how it works. But if everybody starts, in one place and then the scene ends and everybody's kind of in the same place, then that scene's not necessary. Something needs to shift in every scene. It can be minuscule, but something either needs to push it forward, something, or a character needs to make a shift, or something shifts in that scene. If nothing happens and it's just people yakking, there's no need for that scene. So that's what turning a scene is talking about. So while you're kind of figuring out your act one, there's a lot of ways that you can go about this. You can go about it with making sure I'm not missing you. Thank you, Howard. I did say hogs. I did have that right. Somehow it sounded funny. You know how that is? Isn't that weird? So Elizabeth wins the Staples card. Yay! So make sure that you get us your email address, and we will send you a $10 Staples card. It's very exciting. Yay for Elizabeth. Don't spend it all in one place. That's my joke, because you have to spend it all in one place. I cracked myself up. Yes, I do. So make sure that you use this checklist, something that you can use, the things that you need to include in Act 1. We have on there like 3x5 cards. We kind of cover how to build your Act 1. So you can do that. You can create an outline of the things that need to happen in your whole screenplay and then go back. Another thing that we recommend are 3x5 cards, and that's a very common way of building your screenplay. Starts with a U note and ends with a down note. Up note, I got it. I think he means an up note. He's texting too much. So yeah, a scene needs to start with an up note and end with a down note, meaning like it starts out positive and ends negative, or it starts out negative and something happens to switch it positive. It needs to take a turn somehow. It can take a turn into negative to more negative, but as long as something needs to move somehow. So you can write down your scenes, like if you know kind of the things that you want to happen, you can write them down on 3x5 cards, and then you could just place the 3x5 cards out on a table and move them around. And then you can kind of see which ones should go better. Some people, they make their 3x5 cards, they write those scenes, and then they move the 3x5 cards around. Sometimes that's good to do when you're done with your screenplay, to write out with what all your scenes are. And actually, you can do it also in Final Draft. You can do it. It has the functionality to do that. So I knew what you meant. So I knew what you meant. I totally talked too fast. So you can put down your scenes, and then, if the screenplay is feeling flat or something, you can kind of move them around. And sometimes the act, once you're done with your screenplay, of putting those scenes onto 3x5 cards, the act of that will make you go, nothing happens in the scene, because it really pulls it out, right? It pulls every scene out. It's a really good exercise to do if you've written your screenplay and you're kind of like feel like there's some things that aren't working. Really, like, write down every scene on a 3x5 card, or have Final Cut will pull them out based on your slug lines. So the slug line is the interior, and then describing where you are. So it can create 3x5 cards, and you can actually move them around. I believe I haven't done it in Final Cut. I'm like, what you call it, tangible, I'm that kind of learner. I like to actually be holding the 3x5 cards, but I believe that it does, scooch them around and whatnot. And probably Writer's Duet is a new, relatively new software that you can use for writing, and it's cloud-based, and it wouldn't surprise me, because they're pretty on it over there. Wouldn't surprise me if it has that functionality as well. So that's a way that you can kind of test your scenes. It's a way that you can write out scenes on 3x5 cards of the things that you want to happen, then put them on a table, rearrange them all, and then you can start writing your screenplay. These are ways, just to kind of crank out that Act 1. So does anybody have any questions kind of about Act 1? Thanks for ideas. Yay. That's basically, that's it. Go do it. Go do that. No problem, right? But hopefully that helps you kind of, kind of what to do, what not to do. You don't really need to introduce too many subplots in Act 1. That's what Act 2 is for. Act 1 is to go, who's the main people and what's happening? Like, where are we? Who are they? What's the backstory a little bit? Like, what got us here to this point? The inciting incident happens, the world shakes up, woohoo, and then we move on. Act 2 is that's when you start introducing, obstacles and more characters and, kind of just, emotions and the character arc. The first act of the character's arc in the first act, we're just kind of getting that foundation going. We don't really start to build those characters like, in deep ways until Act 2. So just use Act 1 as that, you're fishing and you're reeling them in. That's all you're doing in Act 1. Act 1 is like, this is such a cool story, or don't you want to see more? You make those sure, make sure it's a page turner, make sure those scenes go. Act 2, you can kind of, not too much, but you can kind of slow it down. You can kind of start developing things. You can bring, scenes still need to turn, still needs to move forward, but you can play a little bit more in Act 2. And then Act 3, this big, really short, you're building to kind of mid-range. It's called a lot of different things depending on who you study, but I've seen it called plot point 2. I've seen it called plot point 5. I've seen it called the crux. I've seen it called many things, but basically the point of no return. It's usually the big car chase, the big thing, the big people sometimes mistake that for being the climax of Act 2 into Act 3, and the Act 3 is everything that happens after that. But no, it's kind of mid-Act 2 that all that stuff takes place. And so you think of that as the point of no return. Like, it's the time when the character has to go into battle or whatever. Act 3 is just the tiny little resolution. Again, Wizard of Oz is color-coded, but Act 3 is just that teeny end. Hope that makes sense. So, any questions about Act 1? So use your handout, use it as a checklist so you can kind of check off, are these the things that I'm having in Act 1? There's a lot of books. Michael Haig is awesome. There's just so many good books about, basic screenplay writing, and so much, focused on Act 1 because it's so very important. I mean, it's all important, right? But Act 1, if you can't catch them in Act 1, it's really hard to get them back. Really hard. If, especially if you can't catch them in those first 10 pages, it's really hard. And you'll see, as a reader, when you start reading things, you'll see how hard it is to hang in there with the writer if they haven't caught you in the first 10 pages, or by the end of Act 1, if they still haven't caught you. Really hard to think that they're going to give you anything that's worthwhile. Sometimes they do. Sometimes suddenly in the middle, you're like, oh, the screenplay should start right here. I mean, that's actually pretty common, where it's like, oh, now we're there, because they spend way too much time in Act 1, I was born and this happened and blah, blah, blah. It's like all this backstory. And then finally something happens in the middle of Act 2, instead of it being like boom, boom, boom in Act 1, and then kind of slowing down and building. So trying not to use flashbacks. That's a whole nother topic. So I hope that makes sense. You want to kind of reel them in. That's what Act 1 is for. Cool. That's it for today. So definitely check out the self-starter system, because that is, if you are struggling to get things done, if you want to keep writing, or whatever it is, like, it would help you with that. So we will put a link here to that as well. And then, we're doing our mastermind, which is called Finished, and we're super excited about it. And we'll kind of keep you posted. Right now we have our group for that, and they're working really hard, and they're going to get their screenplays done. And then we'll see where we go with that. We might offer it again, we're not sure. And then we have our screenreader signature course, which we will be opening up sometime this year. All right, so we will keep you posted on all that. We got lots going on. And the podcast launches very soon. You're going to start seeing some stuff about that. Probably, gosh, Doug, next week. We have a lot. All right, cool man and women, all y'all. Super great to see you here. Super loving it that you guys are here with us each week. Super fun. We will be back next week. Not sure what the topic is. I'm not sure. We haven't planned out. We do. I should have looked. So it's a surprise. But check your emails too. If you're not on the email list, make sure to get on the email list. I actually have a couple things I'm going to share this week that are a little bit off the beaten path. But also every Monday, sometimes on Tuesday. We try to get it out on Monday, but we share kind of what we're going to be talking about this week, and then we give you the handout from the previous week in case you didn't get it. So, and then we also give you any other, news that we have or programs we have, and kind of links to basically everything. So get on that mailing list if you're not on the mailing list, because we got a lot of stuff coming up this year we're super excited about, and we want to make sure that you get the info. Oh my God. Thanks, Elizabeth. We'll make sure either message us or, get us your email address. And are you on our mailing list? Because I can look it up that way too. And we will get you your Staples gift card because you got Howard Hex. Yay for Howard. He's amazing. I should have had that right out the gate. So yeah, we'll keep you posted. We will see you next Wednesday. All right, guys. Have a good week.